joining us. My name is Prachi, and it's an honor to be here amongst you all in the Master ceremony. And as you know, this event is being hosted by India, and my next speaker is going to talk more about the organization and the US. Founded by Dr. NRIs, the foundation has been instrumental in creating platforms for meaningful dialogues, unity, and collaboration within the Indian American community. And we are honored to have the representatives of the organization as one of the foundation is one of the hosts for the event today. And to formally commence the event and to talk more about the vision of India abroad, I would like to invite the editor-in-chief, India abroad Punjabi, and a great friend. And he's been in this industry for many decades. And let's invite, I'm sure all of you know him. I'm talking about Mr. Supal Danoa, to talk a little bit about India abroad and its vision. So can I please welcome? Let's we are going to this now.
Thank you so much, Prachi. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Respected guests, community leaders, and friends of India abroad. It is truly an honor to welcome you all to the India abroad dialogue and to see such a distinguished gathering here in Chicago that represent the strength, resilience, and contribution of the Indian diaspora in America. Today, I stand before you not just as a speaker, but as a caretaker of legacy and a participant in its renewal. India abroad is not merely a newspaper, it is an idea. It is a record of history, and most importantly, it is a responsibility. For over 5 decades, India abroad has served as a trusted window into the lives, struggles, successes, and voices of Indians living across the world. At a time when our community had little visibility in mainstream media, India abroad documented our journey quietly, credibly, and consistently. In 2022, India abroad entered what I call a new era. At a moment when media credibility was under global stress, when echo chambers were growing louder than facts, and when diaspora stories were either ignored or oversimplified. Senior journalist Lale Cha stepped forward with vision and courage. Lale Cha, whose journalistic career in Washington, D.C. needs no introduction, came forward to revive, reimagine, and relaunch India abroad with one clear principle: that diaspora journalism must remain free, fair, balanced, and deeply responsible. I joined him shortly after, driven by the same belief that India abroad must not only survive in the digital age, but lead with integrity in it. From 2022 onwards, we consciously rebuilt India abroad as a multi-platform, multilingual, centered media institution. Today, India abroad speaks in recognition of the diversity of the Indian diaspora. English for global reach, Hindi for cultural and political depth, Punjabi for community voice and lived realities, Gujarati for entrepreneurship and heritage. And beyond print and digital journalism, we expanded into video storytelling because the new generation consumes news differently, but still deserves truth, context, and balance. We cover all subjects and all spheres, from geopolitics to grassroots issues, from culture and tradition to real life challenges, from opinion and debate to stories that rarely make it into mainstream headlines. Our mission is simple, yet demanding. We are not here to push narratives. We are here to reflect realities. We believe the Indian diaspora is not a monolith. It is a complex, it is a aspirational, it is a sometimes conflicted and often deeply inspiring. India abroad exists to tell these stories without fear, without favor, without filters imposed by ideology or convenience. That belief is what brings us to India abroad dialogue. These dialogues in Detroit and Chicago are not symbolic events. They are extensions of our newsroom into the community. Here, journalists listen as much as they speak. Here, voices that are often unheard are given space. Here, difficult questions are welcome, not avoided. Because meaningful journalism does not end without publishing. It begins with connections, engagement, and connections. As we look ahead, the future vision of India abroad is clear: to remain a credible global voice of the Indian diaspora, to strengthen community dialogue and civic participation, to mentor the next generation of diaspora journalists, and to ensure that truth, balance, and accountability remain non-negotiable values. In an age where attention is cheap, but trust is rare, India abroad chooses trust. I want to conclude by saying this: India abroad belongs not to any one individual editor, chief editor, or organization. It belongs to the community it serves. And with your support, your engagement, and your honest feedback, this new era of India abroad will not only document history, but help shape it. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for believing in responsible journalism. And thank you for being here today in very cold weather. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Raja. And as you all know, what happened when you woke up, you woke up to something devastating to hear, just to watch so many videos floating around. So how about we maintain a 1 minute silence and keep all those in our prayers who lost their lives, who got injured in Sydney, And yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, so as you can see, we are honored to have very distinguished guests with us. And we have Mr. Vicky Das from the Consulate of Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Devis Consulate for the Video Affairs and Security from the joining us as well. And our next speaker that I'm going to invite on stage, and I'm sure you all know me more now in this work, but officially I would love to say a few words about CSR. As we call him our Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, and as you all know, he is a 5-term US representative of Illinois' 8th district. He has championed the economic opportunity, national security, accountability, and the needs of working families throughout his career in Congress. He has distinguished himself as a principal leader on issues ranging from strategic competition to expanding access to education, healthcare, and jobs for all. Today, we extend our best wishes for his campaign also for the US Senate, where we know he will continue fighting for the values and future of all. Please join me in wishing him the very best, and let's hear from him. Let's welcome Dr. Krishnamurthy.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be with you. It's wonderful to be anywhere they can pronounce my name properly. And so thank you so much. I'm going to try to keep my remarks very brief because I know that there are a couple of questions that are going to be asked as well. Look, I think that first of all, I think the weather outside matches the best description of the U.S.-India relationship that I can come up with right now. A little bit cold and frigid. And that should be the opposite of the nature of that relationship. The relationship should be warm. It should be continuing to rise in importance for the White House. Unfortunately, this relationship, which took 30 years to make what it was prior to Donald Trump coming into office, has now unfortunately seen a lot of changes for the worse. And we'll talk about that briefly. But the reason why I think that this relationship should be among our most important, should be wide, deep, and it should rise to everlasting heights with every administration, is not only because India is one of the largest economies in the world, it's not only because it's the largest democracy in the world, but it's also an incredibly important partner and friend, and I would say an ally in many respects with regard to our values and everything that we hold dear in this country. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about the issues of equality, issues of freedom, democracy, minority rights, the issues of secularism, the issues of free enterprise, and making sure that everybody in the world tries to observe what I call the international rules of the road for how you conduct yourself in international affairs, especially with the rise of the People's Republic of China controlled by the Communist Chinese Party, the CCP. We now know with Russia and others, there is a different set of approaches that compete with our own. And so we want India to be a partner. We want India to be a strategic friend of ours as we make sure that all countries can realize their potential. I'll just close with this. I always like to say that the greatest export of India are Indian Americans. There are 5 million of these exports. And I believe that they form not only ties to India, but they also are bridge builders. They are crucial for both New Delhi as well as Washington, D.C. and other parts of America for learning from each other, enriching each other, and making sure that, again, the relationship continues to grow and everybody prospers. So with that, I'll just close and pause here for these questions, but thank you so much for coming in from the cold. It's always warm when I'm with you, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. All right, it's time for various little change in secrets, but we will get started with our panel discussion. And then we quickly introduce our moderator. And let me invite Mr. Lalit now. Lalit, please welcome. Yes, please sit. And the panel, as you can see, we have Roger Krishnamurthy. We have the Midwest Regional Director from US India Strategic Partnership Forum, Mr. Ankit Jain with us, joining this panel assembly. And we have the leader, the guide, the mentor that we all love, a very successful position, a community leader. The words fall short when we talk about this person, and we all love him. We all try to follow the footsteps, but again, let's welcome Dr. Bharat Varan. And this panel discussion is focused around the new India-US equation, diaspora, geopolitics, and media. This panel will examine the evolving India-US relationship to the powerful lens of diaspora influence, global geopolitics, and media narratives. Let us bring it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for. I would like to start. Can you hear me?
No.
Now? Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to start with Professor Nandakishmi. This week you introduced two resolution bills is a on building the tariff on India. Other one was on H1B. Can you give us a sense why you asked the joint administration?
Sure. So I think that the tariff on India is arbitrary, capricious, and it hurts both countries, okay? A 50% tariff on India doesn't make any sense. It has no basis in any kind of logic. There was no reason behind it. It appears to be the product of a truth social tweet. And that's not how trade policy should be done. And what we're seeing is we're seeing a tariff higher on India than even on China with regard to many products. And so when we are trying to counterbalance the influence of the CCP in this world, why would we ever want to push away our friends, partners, and allies like India? So that's why I put forward that resolution with Deborah Ross and others. The other resolution was with regard to H-1B. That's legislation, actually. That legislation would double the number of H-1Bs that are allowed to come to this country. Look, at the end of the day, we need to upskill our domestic workforce to take the jobs of the future, okay? And I have authored the law that modernizes the type of education that would enable that to happen, and I will continue to do that. But in the meantime, we need to continue to attract the best, the brightest, the hardest working people from around the world. Because at the end of the day, if you don't upskill your workforce and onshore the talent, you will offshore the jobs. And so it's better for us to onshore the talent and make sure the jobs are done here.
Yeah, the China community as well and do much better than it was. How, what kind of threat that China poses to India and the US? Can you tell our viewers who are watching this, both those present here, what's the kind of threat that China poses to both India and the US?
It poses a triple threat: economic, military, and technological, okay? From an economic standpoint, it basically has a very standard economic playbook. The playbook goes like this. It steals intellectual property from other countries' companies. Then it manufactures those products in China using state subsidies as well as state-owned enterprises, far beyond what the domestic consumption would require. Then it exports the surplus at prices designed to undercut their competition. Then they kill their competition. Then they monopolize the market. They raise the prices, and then they use they basically weaponize the monopoly for coercive purposes. That's what they have done from steel to solar to paper to glass to electric vehicles and every other product you can possibly conceive of. So the question is this: what kind of economic model do we want? Do we want an economic model where everyone can compete on a level playing field? Or do we want the Chinese model where they dominate and destroy their competition, and then the world has to buy their stuff? And then they use that money to then fund their military, and then they go and coerce other countries to do their bidding. I think the answer is obvious. We want a level playing field. So that's why we need to work with the Indians as well as Australians, Japanese, other countries around the world to make sure that we have a system that works for everybody.
Dr. Barai, you have known Raja for long. How unique his performance in the last decade? And if you have to ask a question today, what would that answer will come from?
As you observed, I have known Raja before he became the congressman. I mean, what has distinguished him and why he continues to get re-elected is his service, his availability, his affability. Whenever, even though I don't live in his district, I have many friends in his district, and our temple is in his district. Our printed circuit board factory is in his district. And whenever we have asked for help, his office has always helped, whether it's the individual issue of somebody needing passport, visa help, or Pujari's R1 visa, or the technical difficulty. I remember when I live in the 1st district of Indiana, I always used to say that the congressman there could never be defeated because he provided so great service to his constituents. And I would say the same thing about Raja, that he and his office has provided such excellent service to everybody. And congressman is not just supposed to take care of Indian Americans, he has to take care of all his constituents. And they do. So Raja, that is one of the reasons why you stand
a great chance, and we pray and hope that you become the next senator of Illinois. And you deserve it based on what you have done as congressman, what your office has done. And the question that I'll have him, at this time, the MAGA people, including Nikki Haley's son, is saying that legal immigration also should be stopped. Not just, we all agree, illegal immigration should be stopped. But then we have 6 congressmen who are of Indian ancestry that are sitting in the House of Representatives, and there are other Latinos and Muslims and others. How do you tackle that kind of bigotry among your colleagues, 445 congressmen and 100 senators?
I think that that is deeply disturbing, Dr. Barai, for somebody to say that we should reduce legal immigration, because legal immigration has been the golden goose that lays the golden eggs for this country. We would not have a Dr. Barai here. We would not have my family and many of yours if we didn't have a legal immigration system that opened up America to the dreams of all of our families and for that matter, ancestors, because as you know, most Americans are just 1 or 2 generations from having arrived in the United States. At the end of the day, the question is this, which is what kind of a country do we want to become? Do we want to become a country that excels economically? Do we want to be a country that provides peace and stability for its citizenry and is strong? Or do we want a country that, in the pursuit of, as you said, certain bigoted or prejudiced notions, wants a homogeneous country that ends up being weak economically, weak militarily, weak technologically, invites aggression, and basically becomes a vassal state for some other country in the world? I know my choice. We want to be strong. And to be strong, you need a strong legal immigration system.
Dr. Barai, with commission under the media, the last 10 years, have seen several Indian Americans in offices. Last of them have been elected there as well. What kind of role or responsibility, like elected representative from the community, it ask one more question.
I would like Raja to continue along the line. We were considered, Indian Americans, as model minority. We were educated, we had the family values, we were law-abiding citizens. Economically, we contributed a great, paying almost 6% of all the income taxes paid by the American taxpayers, even though we constitute maybe 1% of the population. When it came to education, we were the most highly educated with bachelor, master's, and doctorate level degrees. So we should continue to lead in all the different fields, especially medicine, technology, education, as well as commerce. And I think, Raja, as I feel, President Trump got elected for a multitude of reasons, many of them not necessarily his own merits, but the demerits, the way primary was launched or not launched, and the way President Biden had to get out of the race, and Kamala Harris did not, this is my opinion, did not project herself well. So for multitude of reasons, President Trump became the president. But now, many congressmen, and I talk to them, Republican congressmen and senator in private, they don't like what Trump is doing. But they are afraid because with his money and power, he will put primary candidates against that congressman or senator, and they don't want to antagonize him. Now, when will they break from him? I don't know. I mean, what happened in Virginia, New Jersey, and recently what happened in Miami, maybe that will send enough message that, hey, something is not right. And if you continue to cling to this trio, and I think it's really, most of the legislation is not done by the Congress, but it is done by three people sitting in the White House: President Trump, Steve Miller, and Peter Navarro. So everything is being done by the decree. And you can almost say that what is the difference between Putin and Trump? It's being all legislated by a very small 2 or 3 people sitting in Kremlin or in the White House. So I hope that the Republican congressmen, many of whom are moderate and patriotic, at some point they stand up and do what is right for the country and right for the people. Otherwise, I feel that next November, the voters will give a message, and very strong message, and really, hopefully it will change. And I think the Congress should stand up, pass the legislation talking about the tariffs. It's the job of Congress to tax, and tariffs are a type of tax. And everything, I hope Supreme Court has the guts to declare all these reciprocal tariffs as illegal, unconstitutional. It's the power of the Congress to do the legislation in that regard, and not 3 people sitting in the White House Oval Office to do it.
As an, did you have a question for us?
No, my question to him will be, when will the Congress, if you have an opinion, rebel or stand up and say, Mr. President, this is our job and we are going to do it, and then you have the right to sign it or veto it, but wait till then.
I will say that right now.
Okay.
Look, I think so the other day, the president rated himself on the economy. I don't know if you saw how he evaluated himself. He gave himself an A+++++ with regard to the economy. I've heard of price inflation, Dr. Bry, but I think there's grade inflation also. And I think that this particular assessment tells you how out of touch our president is with the concerns of the average person. Because as you know, the price of groceries is up, the price of gasoline is up, the price of housing is up, the price of healthcare is up, the price of childcare is up, and the price of education is up. And so when you ask the average person, how would you rate this economy? They would not give the same assessment that President Trump did. Instead, I think they would give it an F minus, 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 not an A++++. And so as a consequence, I think that he is going to be in for a rude awakening at the next election. And we are starting to see right now that different members of his party are starting to rebel on different issues. So for instance, with regard to tariffs, there is a group of Republicans who have now signed on to our legislation to reclaim our power under the International Economic Emergencies Act, the IEPA Act, to declare tariffs, okay? There's also a bipartisan coalition with regard to the Epstein files. There's a bipartisan coalition with regard to other issues, and Venezuela boat strikes, by the way. And so I think that even the MAGA base is starting to become a little bit concerned about where their president is going. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who better represents the MAGA base than Marjorie Taylor Greene? Marjorie Taylor Greene is resigning rather than bowing to the intimidation of President Donald Trump. And so I think that there's a change coming, Dr. Bry. I think it's happening as we speak, but as the economy also continues to worsen, I think that change will accelerate.
On a lighter note, I'm going to tell you a little story. In India, there was a drought, severe drought. So the people didn't have anything to eat, nothing was growing. So they went to the king. That is similar situation of what is happening now. King, do something to help us. We have such a severe drought. Nothing is growing. What shall we do? So the king said, "Arey bajra ugao, grow bajra, can eat bajra." No, king, there is such a severe drought, even bajra will not grow. Well, then grow jowar and eat. Then you think there is such a severe drought, even jowar cannot grow. Well, then eat wheat. Raja, how will the wheat grow if jowar bajra cannot grow? Well, then go and eat rice. Raja, no grain will grow. What shall we do? We said, then eat mithai. So that is the kind of king we have sitting in full office.
I hope we have Vedanta here as well. Ankit, US has played a very important role in maintaining trade relationship with India and the US. Right? India has set a very ambitious target of becoming a country by 2047. In what way the India-US bilateral trade can help India achieve that goal? And do you have, I'd like you to ask a question to Raja.
Thank you, Lalit. I think I often joke that the current situation of US-India relationship is like a long, boring marriage, full of commitment, but never short on drama. So we're going through a sort of drama right now. But if you look at it, the business context, the United States is India's largest trading partner, with a bilateral trade of over $212 billion in last year, and India had a trade surplus of over $50 billion. If you compare with China, which is the second largest, $120 billion bilateral trade, but India has a trade deficit of $100 billion, which is massive. And by the way, China can never be India's friend. We have not forgotten what happened in Galwan, where 20 Indian soldiers were killed. China is still sitting on India's flag. India was one of the first countries to engage with the US on the trade deal. Prime Minister Modi was here earlier this year. And both the leaders have set an ambitious target to take the bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030, which is quite practical and achievable. If you look at India is the fourth largest economy, the per capita income is rising from $2,500 to $10,000 by another decade. If you take it to $30 trillion, we need long-term capital investments, cutting-edge technology and research and innovation partnership, and long-term strategic cooperation. If you look at the capital in the last, this year, the largest source of FDI has been from the United States. Last week alone, Amazon has announced $35 billion investment in India. Microsoft has announced $17 billion. Google has announced another $15 billion. So the long-term capital has to come from the United States. So this is extremely important. The good thing is, from the business's perspective, no American company, no US companies they're still very upbeat on India. They are still going through the navigation on the tariff side, but they are totally upbeat on the India as it grows as a market. Another thing on the trade deal, we heard Jameson here, the USDA last week, mentioning in front of the Congress that this is the best deal India has offered ever to the United States. It is a great deal. We believe there is a recommendation from the USTR and the Commerce Secretary to the President to accept the deal. But the rules have changed, as Congressman was mentioning. That it's the President who needs to take a call on that. And in absence of a trade deal right now, as Raja was mentioning, it makes no sense to have. India is currently the highest tariff country, 50%. And our 3 decades have built on taking this relationship. Every successive president has taken the relationship further. And because of the tariff, yes, of course, Indian businesses are hurt, small and medium industries particular. But there is inflation, as he was mentioning, is going up because of the tariff. So we need to scale down even off-ramp and bring the relationship back on track. As far as one question I would love to ask Raja, we are seeing a lot of negative sentiment, especially online, hatred against Indian American community. If you go on X today, you don't see anything positive, and we believe much of it's not organic. It's driven by Chinese, Pakistani, bots. Even your own announcement when you announced for the H1B that you need to double the. I saw that tweets. There was massive negativity online on that. So how do you think it needs to be addressed, as a community? Because there's a massive propaganda going on against the community, especially online. We don't see it offline, but online for sure.
Yeah, it's deeply disturbing. Just a few weeks ago, an elected official from Florida called for me to be deported. He called me a foreign occupier, and he said my name was unpronounceable. So I said, at Council Langevin, just call me Raja. I'll just call you racist. And I think that unfortunately, we're kind of in this moment where anti-Indian sentiment is on the rise. And we have to recognize it. And it's really, it's going to become dangerous when combined with the rise of political violence as well, right? So you have violence on the rise, and you now have bigotry and prejudice on the rise, especially toward Indians, but also other brown-skinned people. And the net result, unfortunately, is the possibility of violence. We in the Indian community have to do everything we can to do three things, okay, in the Indian American community. One, we have to speak up. I think perhaps in past times, people were counseled to be silent for fear that raising the issue would attract more attention. But actually, I think after having spent a decade in Congress, that it's important for us to speak up whenever there's any kind of act of bigotry, prejudice, hate directed at Indian Americans anywhere, or mandirs or mosques or whatever you have. The second thing I would say is you need to speak up even when there's bigotry, prejudice, hatred directed at anyone else, whether it's in our community or elsewhere. Because at the end of the day, we have to multiply our numbers by standing shoulder to shoulder with others. Okay? So today, for instance, in Sydney, unfortunately, there was a mass shooting. It was a terrorist attack. Let's just be very clear about what just happened. And so I think everybody should express their outrage about this rise in anti-Semitism, for instance. The third and final point is we have to become more politically engaged. I mean, Dr. Barai has been engaged for decades in the political process, but now everybody has to, because there's this old saying in Washington, D.C., if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And none of us can afford to be on the menu, and you have to be at the table if you want to affect change. I understand that I might have taken positions in the past that may not be popular with the MAGA right, but they aren't the people that I am most concerned with. I'm concerned with the well-being of my 750,000 constituents and all the community, not just one segment. And so I will continue to look out for them.
Congressman, Congressman Dr. Barai says your name is and you always address questions. As you come down, the people will start taking selfies with you, right? With your permission, can ask the audience to ask one or two questions.
Maybe one question.
Any questions from the audience?
Hi, Doctor. See you, it's very insightful. One quick question. You must have seen what's going on in terms of law and order and the shooting. I just want to ask as a congressman, what will be your next steps to make sure the students in the university are safe, and how safe today the students in the universities in America, and how safe are the people on the street, people in the mall? And economy is one side, but the law and order is another issue. Hatred is one side, but the safety of individuals, especially students, are very, very important.
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, I hope that we all pray for the comfort of the families affected by the shooting at Brown University last night. 2 were murdered, and maybe 8 to 10 people are injured, and we pray for their full recovery. I think I would just point to a few things, okay? One is we do have a scourge of gun violence in this country, okay? There's a mass shooting every day on average, but it doesn't necessarily receive the coverage because it may not happen in the same fashion that it did last night at Brown University. But the reason for those mass shooting is the easy availability of handguns and other assault and also assault weapons for anybody who wants to commit violence. That's the first point. And we must, as a community, but as a country, we must control with common sense gun regulations access to these weapons, especially keeping them out of the hands of people who should not have them. That's the first point. Second point is we have a mental health crisis in this country as well. And we have to acknowledge that. The mental health crisis has gotten worse since the pandemic. And it's really afflicted young people, among others, more than, maybe disproportionately more than we might otherwise admit. And as a consequence, we need to address that particular issue as well. And then the third and final point is we have to lower the temperature of the rhetoric that we use about each other. We may disagree with each other politically, but we can't in any way encourage violence. We can't in any way encourage extremist actions in service of that rhetoric, because believe it or not, people listen to you. And if they listen to you, they may act. And so we have to get away from this. So those are the three things that I say that we have to tackle and that I would tackle in Congress simultaneously.
As we conclude this wonderful panel, what is it what we must
No, I want to thank everybody for coming. The views expressed are, of course, my own individual views, but in this difficult environment, which I believe is really coming from a very narrow section of community, specifically talking about the Pakistan and Chinese propaganda. And I don't know, Raja, you get going, but if the Department of Justice can investigate that this is an act of bigotry, racial hatred against one group of Americans, I'm as much an American as anybody else. So this propaganda generated by the Chinese and Pakistanis, if it can be investigated, I think I'll appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
I think thanks, Karan, for the panel. It's been a pleasure, and we hope, we believe in the inherent strength of this relationship, and we will bounce back in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our wonderful moderator. And I want to say a little bit about Mr. Lalit Jha. As you all know, that he is a Washington-based Indian journalist for 18 years. Mr. Lalit Jha is the CEO of India Abroad. He has recently joined ICS, a prominent Indian news agency, as a senator in North America, and will feature. He is the wonderful moderator that we just had. All right, so we will move on to our second session, or we will take a break. Any second session? Okay. Dinesh Reddy to join us again with Indian diplomat, the Council of Community Affairs and Security. Thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you for joining. And as I mentioned, Mr. Manor, Mrs. City Manor will be moderating this discussion, and this is going to be around the topic US India's economic runway, which is going to focus on trade, AI, artificial intelligence, technology, defense, and innovation. This panel will set the stage for a forward-looking conversation on one of the most consequential global partnerships of our time. So, Mr. Fajr, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hello? Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all of you. Let's start from the base from India Embassy. Sir, my question will be, as India is hosting an AI summit in February next year, in what way the two largest democracies can collaborate in this next frontier of science and technology?
Thank you. The was a pleasure out here, but as far as the AI question is concerned, there are three things. The motto of AI Summit, which is Sarvajan Aita, Sarvajan Sukha, that is the catchword we are doing it. So, what the theme of this is, it's building the capability tomorrow rather than focusing on job creation and such, or the loss of job. The three pillars of the AI thing, which you see, there is a tussle going on between the open source and the proprietary thing, and India has, go with the open source model, which is basically that code should be given and it will be improved by the community, by the developers, by the young talents. Those will use it. Secondly, obviously, the hardware behind things like putting in data centers and trying to develop the LLM models by utilizing them. Recently, we have heard about Amazon and Google investing 50 to 30 billion of rupees, and probably we're expecting OpenAI to do things and subcontracting different data centers into the architecture of India that is there. And the third is the upscaling into from generative to general intelligence, which the new frontier of science that is being developed. And where the quantum computing is, and the progress in quantum, as recently the recent Nobel laureate and the qubit developer recently got the Nobel Prize. And we have in-house capability as far as quantum computing is discussed. So the three pillars we're working, and that will be highlighted in the AI Summit. And it's more of building the capability tomorrow. That's what I can say.
Let me ask you one thing. I firmly believe India-US ties is driven by people, trading, and business ties. In that context, as a successful business, how entrepreneurs like you can play a role in boosting this fund?
My kind of many young people are more and more getting in the tech business. A lot of innovations are involved. And if you're talking about the whole country, US and India, I would say at least 15% of new tech companies in the last 10 years, they're open, and they have registered that IPs in America and India are Indian origin. And this is keep growing. I would say there is many billionaires, 135 from the Indian origin, and they are majority from the tech companies. they are kind of innovators or they might own multiple IP. Look at the Meta. So many millionaires just become the success in the Meta AI. So this is upcoming trend that second generation, first generation Indians are keep growing very fast in the US and India as well. In India, top 100 companies just recently who did over 100 CR business, they are all under 35. So it's a very big contribution of the young community in the country's new research development and finance.
And what is your wish list from the two governments, Trump administration here and PMOP government in this context?
I'm an American citizen. I'm looking after really the community, and the U.S. Citizens are facing a lot of issues like the price inflation of the day-to-day life. Their uncertainty of their life that tomorrow my kids, his kids, or someone who all born in America, and someone will walk to them and they say, "Get out of this country." Our skin will not change, our color not change. Even third, fourth generation, they all tell us by walking, they say they are Indian. And if this kind of hatred against us or the brown skins going on, and if some president or that level are giving the hint against us, that is not right. So I'm definitely looking for something that some strong message from the president come to United States and some of the politicians who are talking against our community.
Thank you so much. And Bakshi, in the present scenario, the situation we all watching every day, what do you think the Indian diaspora, as we saw, plays a unique role? How it can become a stronger economic bridge between them?
Thank you. Indian diaspora is already doing marvelous. The recent events that are happening due to the political change, political change will come again. It's another 3 years, 4 years of this administration. The Indian diaspora just need to be steadfast, in my opinion. It is not the worst of time or the worst of times. It is just the time. We are the strongest community as far as the AI development is concerned. You look at the largest groups who are working on it are mostly of our origin. The respect has gone down, yes. And like I said, it's just a simple number. And we need to stand fast, we need to be positive, we need to continuously work to provide what we've been providing for the past 5 decades to this country. As proud Americans, the next generation will get confused if we just talk about India-centric views. We have to talk about India and US alliance. That's what we're discussing today, right? Strategic alliance. Where India can help, this is India can help in the senses that India also supports the next generation diaspora here. We see a lot from India where the other countries, I know I don't want to get into the other countries, but they invite the Indian diaspora to learn from them. Indian, not only the students, it's foreign exchange students or something like that, but community leaders are invited to other countries to learn about other countries' culture and interact. And that kind of relationship Indian government needs to build with the American community, inviting them, not only students, exchange students happen all the time, the business leaders, they need to, the next generation business leaders, they're completely cut off. A lot of them don't want to go to India
because the extended hand is not there. So that needs to happen. And I think India has a lot to offer. What Modi ji did, one thing is, the foreign dignitaries come from China, the usual Taj Mahal visit is no longer there. He's taking them to show real India. And that made a lot of change in people's mind. So that needs to happen with, I think, the diaspora, next generation kids. They need to be invited to see the real India as business entrepreneurs, as tech innovators. They need to go to India and see the real India. Same thing, Indian tech industry needs to be invited here to see real America. America is a beautiful place. It's not only a few cities that we always hear about, New York, Chicago, LA. It's much more than that. So much deeper interaction needs to happen to have a brighter future. And these times will pass. When I use my word of my father, winter is here, but spring is just around the corner.
Thank you so much. So let me ask, why we are focused right now on tariff and its impact? I would like to, as you are very watching this closely. So what role India-US bilateral trade can play in India's goal to becoming a 12th economy by 2047, which is targeted by the present government?
Yeah.
Would be happy to achieve.
No, thank you. I think I dealt on this question in the previous session, but happy to share more. See, India has set a target to be $30 trillion economy by 2047. And the business community, the bilateral trade has to be a crucial component of it. Right now, US is the largest trading partner, with over $110 billion trade in last year, which is a good $50 billion trade surplus for India. And as we look from 4 trillion to 10 trillion by 2030, we need more investment. Look at the last quarter, the most number of FDI remittances came from the US. And not just that, the highest number of remittance of NRIs, India is leading the global remittance, over $130 billion annually. And over 30% of that comes from Indian Americans, which is keeps the forex reserve stable and also creates drive the economy in India. So it is extremely important that we need to take this relationship further bilaterally. Both the countries have set target to take $500 billion, but on tariff there is a huge impact, especially the small and medium industries in India, especially sectors like apparel, gems and jewelry, chemicals, and others. So hopefully, and India has agriculture there has been a demand from the US side to open Indian agriculture market, but it is clearly a red line, for the government of India to open up agriculture, because India, almost 50% of the people are dependent on agriculture. It contributes almost 50% to the GDP. But hopefully, as the USTR acknowledged that India has given one of the best deals, but the ball is in the president's court to accept it. But I think largely we see that there is enormous potential, apart from like education is one sector. We do have the highest number of international students, over 300,000 Indian students studying at the campuses here, contributing almost $15 billion to the local economy. And what happens is, because the international students pay more fees, the universities here are able to subsidize local communities. So, I think and similarly in other sectors, in defense, in space, people to people, we see there is enormous potential, and hopefully we will be over this situation soon. Thank you.
Vandana, as you are a veteran journalist and almost more than 30-year journey in the media, and this is India abroad dialogue. How do you see the present scenario and situation in media, either in back home or in US or globally, especially as we are talking to
India abroad, how you see the role and situation of the media globally?
Very beautiful question you put it. As you did mention, 3+ decades of mine. What I saw when I was studying journalism, yesterday I was talking to Lalit. It was told to me, what I see, I must say that. In today's time, the definition is completely changed and reversed. What I'm saying, you must see. That should not have been there, first of all. And there has to be something which is called responsibility, which is missing in today's time. And who's to be blamed? We, the people. Anybody and everybody globally carrying a smartphone in their hands, they treat themselves that we are the reporters. And community becomes very vulnerable when we have WhatsApp and other sources where there is so much rumor. And community becomes more vulnerable at the ages of, when you talk about this publication, India Abroad, means when we came in here, we trust, because there is somebody. And when there was no Shadi.com, there was nothing, Lalit, at that time. Matrimonials used to have through this. Sources were there, and the founders, we really respect them, what they've done. But comes to the community and the businesses and the enterprises, because people have to realize there are two parts to media. One is publishing, editorial, and publishing. Editorial has its own job, but the publisher has to pay the bills also, that cost. But the community and the business houses, they don't realize, because there are media which is coming from Bharat. Let's talk, because we're talking from the Indian perspective right now. And they are here, their presence is here. But when it comes to the support, you're supporting them, but then no local media. I'm not interested right now what's happening in Mumbai. That will be later, but I'm very much interested what's happening in Indianapolis. And for my next generation, I'm very much interested what's happening in Los Angeles, because my generations are not going to be talking about Mumbai. Mumbai comes later, but that's not happening now. We are to be talking about from local perspective also. So that is the time that the community has to come and support. And I am nobody to set up a narrative, which is wrong. You asked what we are doing today. That is what we are doing. Yellow journalism. Who am I? I should be seeing it, what's happening there, and then let people decide about it, which is missing. Then comes another part. Like, you were seeing it, this what happened, Prachi did mention we had 1 minute of silence, and that is growing. That is growing, and that will keep growing it unless or until we talk about it. We are not touching the real issues in today's time. And 5 million of us, if we come together, we can definitely make a difference. 1 second, I'm just saying, globally, how much India, and I always have been saying, Deji, that Indians cannot be ignored anywhere in the world. 1 second of it. We have to understand our strength, who we are, what we have contributed, not only in America, but globally. When we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it is not just a saying by saying. We believe in that, what India has done it. India cannot be ignored anymore. Congressman Raja was talking just a few minutes ago. We just heard him. We talk about, so that is elected officials. We bring them, table and menu. So they do have their role to play also. It is not about party politics should not be there itself. And I'm very particular about saying that, because we do have our challenges. We should be talking about that very openly. Unless or until we'll demand, nothing will happen. A mom gives a milk to a baby when baby starts crying.
Neerajji, you played a key role to help us here. How you see our young generation in the ethnic media, and how Indian American people can play a role to get them involved in this field? In media, I have not seen many youth in part of the international media or the national media. Here as an Indian youth, I have not seen it. Somehow they are kind of afraid of taking a stage for the community, I would say for the truth, because the school systems and the education systems are make them so much afraid of going in public in the media. Plus, our basic trend, become the engineer, become the doctor, become the IT specialist. That trend has to be, I think, slow down or understand that this is not only our need. Our need is the media too. The media is today. Media is a force of the community, force of the voice, and force of the power. If we are not in the media, then it's not going to be take our community on the level where we supposed to be, such as the Jewish community and some others.
Thank you so much. And let me come to you, sir. AI, semiconductors, and defense manufacturing are emerging. Where does India see the biggest opportunity for co-creation, not just cooperation?
Yeah, the government policies, there are two, when the President Modi came down to February, the joint declaration, we talk about two acronyms. One is trust, one is Comcast, compact, where it's about accelerating few 6-7 frontier technologies. One, the more emphasis is on critical minerals, basically rare earths. So ironically, rare earths are not rare. What is rare is extracting those rare earths from the available resources. And obviously, as you all know, China has monopolized it, perfecting the technology. Now the world is realizing that we need to develop, not only develop, for developing also we need collaborations. So the US has recently formed partnership with Australian, us and all. Basically, it was developed in US only. Subsequently given to China or other countries. So that is one part. Second thing is the defense partnership. Recently, the co-production rather than buying and utilizing this. Recently, Apache, the Roadmaster, and the other Javelin missiles. All those high-level discussion is going on to not only utilize the technology, but co-producing. Second thing. Third is we're developing is the biological from emerging from the pharmaceuticals to bio-related stuff, like genetic editing. With many of the frontier technologies, if you see the Ozempic kind of drugs that is coming off from Jaro, so there is huge potential of research on genetics. So the three critical areas, there are others, but the three critical areas probably we're trying to focus, where we want not only the intellectual capital to transfer, we will do it in our place and develop expertise in
Can you say something on the perspective Indians abroad, how they can play, Indian diaspora can play a positive role to build those kind of things?
You talk about defense.
Yeah, AI, semiconductors, and defense manufacturing.
So I'll go back to my previous comment. I think there's a lot of the next generation or you who are involved in, such developments in America. And it would be on the GOI to reach out to these, to find what they're doing. They're doing tremendous research and development. And not working for larger corporations individually, smaller units, startups. They're heavily involved since I think 2011 when the space industry was open to the general public in America, which India just recently did that in a couple of weeks ago, when the government of India also welcomed the private sector to get involved in space and defense. But 2011 was when You've got the inventor companies like Rocket Lab and SpaceX coming out with full force. But there are over 3,600 smaller organizations in America who are working on this space and defense research individuals. And many of those 3,600 companies belong to the next generation Indian diaspora, to our children. The outreach has to come because this is defense sector. Outreach has to come from country to country. And I think that's where the message can go out to India. There's 3,600 organizations, but the majority of them, I'd say upward of 70% of them, are led by next-gen Indians. So the onus is on the government of India to outreach to them. And we are here to help. We can make a connection on this, in that sector. That is going to happen. It's been a very, very positive thing. We talk about a lot of negative comment on X, but I think if anything happens at ISRO, and ISRO does something, you see how many positive comments are there. And it's majority not Indian diaspora that putting those comments, it's normal American folks. You'll see one or two negatives, but majority of those comments when we launched the most heavy rocket the other, less than 12 days ago, you see more than 50,000 positive comments. So people appreciate positivity. And the outreach has to come from, I think it's not the next gen, what Neera said, is busy in becoming science in the STEM programs, and doctors and engineers and computer science majors. Why they're not in the media? Because they're not going to the liberal arts that much. They don't have a pathway, economic pathway, which is the fault of the first generation, including myself. Like we forced kids to be in the technology, become a doctor or a lawyer, but not go in the liberal arts, do journalism, Vandana ji has been carrying this, Prachi ji is carrying this, but they're again, first gen. Right? The next generation, it is the onus of the parents now to get them involved and create programs that will encourage them to be involved in the media. But going back to the top, you gave me the how this interaction happened. The positive message is already there. It's the outreach has to come from government of India to invite these technocrats, invite these developers to have some joint venture. And I think the government of US already has since 2011 opened this market up for interaction, not technology transfer, but interaction at least needs to happen.
Before I come to you, Neeraj, I want to ask you as this morning I heard when we were talking about the drone technology, and drone is a big issue, especially when the drones are coming with truck in Punjab and the border area. What do you see how the Indian administration or Indian government can tackle what kind of technology and what kind of impact in the long run? What do you see about this issue?
I think the drone is an issue everywhere in the world, not only just for India. Previously, even US, they are having this issue when carriers are sending drugs towards the border. That happens everywhere. Just need to be proactive, give some more encouragement to the technology, and develop the new technologies. I know that India has a best technology of pending the drone. It's just about to slowly deploy. Since the borders are so big, so wide. It take a time to deploy. Because when we talk that let's put this in a system, but when you get the area, it's quite larger. We have seen between the tension happened in India and Pakistan. There was a tension happened how the forces defend our borders. It was something phenomenal. The job they have done. I think the world recognize the way we encountered the drones coming from those are Turkish drones coming from the other side of the and Israel is also not at 100% capable to do. So we are pretty much very well technology way. We are developed. We learn the lesson now, and new technologies slowly placing on the border, and hopefully by this year, by end of this year, we'll be completely protecting the country from interfacing more outside.
Thank you so much. Actually, as we saw that
difference on bipartisan level with Congress, Democrats, and Republicans. That as a community, we are there to support you for a stronger, pro-India policies, and you speak against for the faith, for the issues that concern Indian Americans. So I think that is something that, as a community, we need to talk about.
thank you so much. I don't know if there are any question to our panelists from the audience. Anyone have any question? No? So, oh, yes.
I'll ask. Thank you very much for a wonderful conversation here. And we're talking about AI. And what I'd like to hear from the perspective of, we have a Government of India representative here. What steps the government is taking in terms of safeguarding the onslaught of AI in the Indian culture, Indian knowledge systems,
used to otherwise. But it's a difficult thing to, that's the, for example, suppose we want to change into Linux and Linux-based systems in place. It was very critical or strategic sector people do use. So the OS which is ingrained in the strategic community. But as far as the open community or the business community they use, obviously it has to be OS which is commercially viable. Frankly, for example, you developing something which is very similar to Twitter, similar to WhatsApp, or very similar to, let's say, any other app which is very famous. It's not that easy. Developing is very easy, but marketing it and getting it popularized is difficult. As far as the government setup and strategic communities, that is the OS is getting used, which is unique to those communities. But as far as commercial viability is, it takes time. In China being China, the TikTok is the one thing there are other things, they produce so much of things there. But Bharat OS probably we're developing, and it's a long time to go to get it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed and forget about the show. Thank you, all of you. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. That was very insightful. Thank you to each and every one of you, and thank you to the encouraging audience as well. And now that we are towards the conclusion part of the event, a very important segment that we move on to right now is I would like to invite somebody to deliver the closing comments, including the final reflections on what we all discussed and a vote of thanks. And in order to do that, I would like to invite Mr. Artans Kumar. Let me give you about him. He is an award-winning journalist, author, speaker, and linguist, recognized by the California News Publishers Association and the San Francisco Press Club for his writing on Indian diaspora, politics, and culture. An alumnus of Jawaharlal Nehru University and the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, he has taught linguistics and Hindi and holds an MBA from Webster University and has also worked in IT. He is the curator of Gods in Exile and a contributor to several notable anthologies and is actively involved in translating English literary works into Hindi. Please join me in welcoming Shri Artans Kumar ji, and thank you, Artans ji. Such great achievements. We are so honored to have you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Prachi. What Prachi didn't tell you is this is going to be a question session. There's going to be tests. No, I'm just kidding. So, thank you very much, everybody, for coming here. Thank you, Rajaji is not here, Congressman Raja is not here, but thank you very much for joining us for this important conversation. Thank you, Devesh, thank you, Kirti, and everybody else involved here on this panel discussion here. We really appreciate it. As everybody, explained, we need to be very much involved in the politics here. We have to speak up for our rights. We have to speak up, and we participate in the political journey. We have to not just come to feasts and bowls and other kinds of things, but we also have to speak with our votes. We should definitely participate even in primaries and in the general elections as well, because we need to be heard. We are a small minority, but we need to be heard and we need to participate in it. I have a couple of points. Congressman Raja also talked about the tariffs. It was the tariffs of India is one of the highest. And though, even though it was a political agenda of President Trump, we all know about it, that it's going to happen, but we were all very surprised, especially in combination with the relationship that's happening in Pakistan through this administration. We have to be very careful about how this bigotry, we have to counter the bigotry that is online, as Amitabh ji has also mentioned, that most of the bigotry that we see is online, not in public, in person. So hopefully we will keep engaging with our neighbors and communities so that this bigotry is, countered. On trade, Ankit ji mentioned, the level of commitment, level of engagement that's happening between the two countries, India and the US, is going to increase. I don't think it's going to, stumble. There's some stumbling blocks, but I think it's going to continue because of the position India is in, being the largest democracy and the fourth largest economy. And it keeps growing with Prime Minister Modi in charge. Also, engagement with the media, it's very important. We want our community involved in the media forum. We need to have more people involved in it. We need to take, Mitaji also mentioned about taking liberal arts classes and all that. So I think overall we had a very good conversation. A lot of people didn't because of this cold weather, hopefully, but we had it live streamed, so people got to see that conversation, be part of that conversation. And I also would like to thank some of our sponsors, Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Foundation Studies, FITS, US India Community Foundation, Hindu Business Network, and our media partners, Ashtak and India Today. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the India Abroad Dialogue. Hopefully, we'll continue with this kind of engagement in future and more internal. Hopefully, this is just the beginning. So, thank you very much one more time. I think if may I steal Pratiji's job here and say maybe food is ready? Okay. Okay. All right. So, thank you very much.
Get out from this freezer. It's so cold. It's freezing. Thank you so much. Recently joined the Wednesday. The work that you do, I just found out. So, is there a website or a number that you can be reached at? Yeah. Please, if you have a card, please put the card. Okay, no worries. Like you can give me.
Yes. What's your number? I can call you.
Yeah. Do you speak Hindi or how are you? You teach Hindi, right?
I taught Hindi, yes, I used to.
Oh, awesome.
So, what's your phone number?
My number is 630 303 197. Line and then I save it.
Exactly. That's what I'm gonna do too. आप अपना नाम लिखिए मैं आपका नाम